Welcome back to ilovedrupal.com. We're going to continue our video tutorial on getting started with Drupal. So in our last video, we added a couple of pages of content, and then we added a menu item, which was the Contact Us page. In this video, we're just going to go through the administrative interface that is available to you as once you log into your site. Again, this is just the administrative interface so that you can manage the website the way you need to organize it, the way you need to give permissions and whatnot. So right now I have the Aqua control panel started, and I see the web server is running and the MySQL server is running. And now if I go to my site.localhost, you're going to see that the site is up and running. So last video, again, if you click on the content type, we added these 3 pages. Okay, so let's go through the other menu options that we have here. Structures, the next one up on top, so I'll just click on that and we'll see what we have there. Blocks, content types, menus, and taxonomy. Okay, so for Drupal, one of the main concepts you really need to understand is differentiation between a block region and your main content area. Okay, so if I click on the block area, right now I see, in header I have nothing, in highlighted section I have nothing. You're probably going, what are these? Okay, so we'll get to that in just one second. I just want you to notice in the sidebar first, you see that we have a search form, navigation, and a user login available, or it's enabled here. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you have a whole bunch of other blocks that are currently disabled, but we can place them in a specific region if we wanted to. Okay, so I'm just going to exit out of this and show you where the search form, the navigation, and user login is in terms of sidebar first. Okay, so if I just X out of there, you see that on our main page, we have the search option and the navigation. The user login is not there because we're already logged in. So if we were an anonymous user coming to the website, I can show that, log out, and you see that we have the user login available, but we don't have the search option and the navigation option is gone now. We only have the user login. So what Drupal is doing is basically, depending on what permissions you have as a not logged in user, you only have permission to log in, so it shows you that login box. But once you log in, it says, okay, this is an authenticated user, and then whatever permissions you have available as that user, it will show you those blocks in this case. All right, so I'm just going to log back in, and I'm back to my interface. So how are these blocks defined? How do you know where you can place stuff? Well, the theme that you're using actually defines what regions are available to us. So in our case, if I go back to my blocks section, you have this link here that says demonstrate block regions, and it shows you the theme name as well. So when I click on that, it shows me that I have a header section, which basically in the overall layout of your website, header section will be up here up on the top. And then the featured section takes up the whole width, and then the sidebar first, sidebar second, with the main content here, and then the highlighted section. So now with this basically legend that you have for your template, you can figure out, well, if I put something in first sidebar, it's going to go on over here. If I put something in the second sidebar, it's going to go in that area. Or if I put it in featured section, it's going to go there. So this is what you really need to understand in order to start putting content on your website in specific areas. So right now with this basic installation and the default theme that comes with Drupal, these are all the different areas that we can put stuff in. So now if I click exit site, block display, if I take the user login, actually I'm going to take the navigation, and instead of first sidebar, if I just click second sidebar and then save, and I'm going to exit, Now you see that I've moved that navigation over to the sidebar that's on the right hand side. So that's pretty much how easy it is to move pieces of content around. All right, so now let's continue on with the other option, content type. Again, we see that the default option is article and basic type, and if we wanted to have a specific content created based on your requirements, we can add a new content type here. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Menus, by default, again, you have 4 menus that are already defined. The main menu is the one that we're seeing here. Okay, and now if I go back to the menus again, and then you have the user menu and the navigation menu, and the navigation menu again is what you're seeing here. Okay, and the last one here is taxonomy. By default, taxonomy is not defined. This is something again that is going to be unique to each website. So if you click on list terms, there's nothing here. We'll get back to these things in more detail, but I just want you to get a feel for where things are. Taxonomy, you need to think of keywords. Just think keywords. If your article is about Drupal and you want to target it with that keyword, you just put in Drupal for that taxonomy item. Okay, we'll get to that later. Okay, the next menu option is appearance, which is actually your theme. So again, this is a default installation of Drupal, and Bartik is the default theme. And then we also have 7 and disabled themes. We have Garland and Stark. So let's say I wanted to change the look and feel of my website and try something different. I can click the 7 and just set that as default. And now if I go back to my home page, the whole layout of my website has changed because I'm now using the 7 theme that came along with the Drupal installation. So I can go back. Actually, I want to go back and show you the blocks area. Okay, so if I click on demonstrate regions, you see that this theme has very only couple of items here that you can put stuff in: help area and the content area. So it's a very basic theme. I want to switch back to the other theme that has more options to start with. So now I'm switching back to Bartik. Now if I go back again, my new theme has been enabled. All right, so appearance is basically the themes that you have, and then you can add more themes, and we'll get into that in the next videos. People, this is the overall users that you have on your website. Okay, right now we're the only user on this website. Okay, and it shows you the list here, and then we can actually go in and edit and change password and do some updates there. Modules. Okay, these are the core modules. So if I click that, you see that there is no other block of modules available. Again, we're looking at a default installation. So but by default, we have a bunch of modules that are enabled, and most of them are required. But there are some modules that we can disable. For example, this toolbar that we're seeing is an option. So if I undo that and save, my toolbar is going to be gone. Okay, so there you go. Now my toolbar is gone, and now I have to access that manually. So you can do that by going to the admin area and then modules, and then enable that toolbar again. All right, so let me do that now. Save configuration. Okay, so these are the core modules that came with Drupal. This is probably the most important section of your site in terms of configuration. One of the main things that you want to decide from the get-go is the account settings. Under account settings, who can register accounts on your new website? Okay, so if a visitor comes to your website, do you allow them to register? Okay, or do you allow them to register but need permission? So these are some of the things that you need to think through and decide, okay, how does a user interact with the website? So by default, it says visitors are allowed to register, but administrator approval is required. And this is a pretty good default setting, because then you stop a lot of spam from happening and whatnot. Okay, so under configuration, account setting is one of the main ones that you need to look at. File system, this is telling you where all the files that you upload, images and PDF files or whatever you upload, where are they going to be stored? Okay, this is the structure that it's going to follow. Okay, and image styles, we don't really need to look at. Here's another important one, clean URLs. That's enabled. Again, this helps in search engine optimization, and it also makes it easier for you to go to specific pages within your website. If we disable that, basically it starts putting a question mark for the queries that are happening in the backend, and it's just not very easy to navigate around. All right. Regional settings, again, you can set it to whatever your region and zone is, set up the time, and site information. Okay, this is by default, again, depends on how you're using it with your theme. So in my case, my theme is displaying the site information. So if I change this to I love Drupal, okay, and save it, and if I go back to my home page, this has changed now because my theme is showing that site name. Okay, so again, if I go back to appearance and settings, and here's the site name. If I disable that option and then go back to my home page, now that site name is gone. So from your configuration and your site information, you have options here, site name, slogan option, and that ties into your appearance and the settings that are available here. So under appearance, you have options to enable and disable that, whether or not that information gets displayed. So I'm going to just enable that information back up, site information. All right, so let me go back to configuration. So next one here that you want to look at is performance. Okay, under performance, clearing cache is one of the things that we need to do quite often. So this is something that you really need to remember. Okay, so another way we can remember items that we use all the time is, if you click on this app option to add to default shortcuts, it will add it right here for me. So next time around, say you're on the home page, you can just click on performance and that will get you to that performance page. So clearing caches is under configurations, and then under performance, that's where you clear cache. All right, and let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, logging in errors. This is by default, it's storing all the errors and messages, and it's going to store up to 1,000, or you can do more. I think by default that's fine. Save configuration. And next one is maintenance mode. So putting site in maintenance, basically that means users will not be able to visit your site. They'll get a message saying that your site is under maintenance. So if you're doing updates or you don't want your site to be live currently, you can just put it under maintenance and do all your changes then. All right, so when we went under logging and errors, and we have by default 1,000 messages that will be logged, that's something that is going to be used in our reports. So if I click on reports and click on recent log messages, here's all my log messages. And then you have a bunch of filters that you can use in order to narrow down whatever message you're interested in. Okay. The most important one again under this would be your status report. You just want to see that everything is working smoothly. You want to make sure that these are protected, and it gives you a bunch of other options showing you what is enabled and what's not enabled. Okay, so like in our case here, we're using PHP memory limit of 256. On your hosting, most of the time you're going to find that this is 64, and in my opinion that's very low, depending on, again, number of modules that you enable. I think something like 128 or 96 would be more appropriate. So when you're looking for hosting, that's probably something that you want to look at. That's more important for the shared hosting accounts. All right, so under reports, those are your options there. Status report is one of the more important ones. And then the last one we have is the help section, where based on the modules that you have, you can click on any of those and it will give you more details on that, and also has other links that will give you more help information there. So that's pretty much it for the administrative menu, or the options they have as administrator. So in our next video, we'll actually go into how to install modules and basically change your Drupal setup, to customize your Drupal setup. All right.